Hello, my name's Robert Craven, and today I'm going to talk about thriving agency businesses in Q4, what to do and why. Delighted to be here. I am on the board of 3 agencies. My business, Grow Your Digital Agency, Guider, runs masterminds for 40 agencies, and we've got 150 agencies at the moment on training programs that we run. I'm only telling you this to let you know that what I'm talking about comes from experience, comes from skin in the game, comes from talking to agencies, having that whole view. So this presentation, which I'm delighted to be able to give to you, is a quick run through of slides. Not my normal style, but I think it supports the argument, and the argument is pretty straightforward. For myself, understanding the world, where agencies are, whether they're thriving or dying or in between, understanding what the options are, understanding what in previous recessions people have done and what people should be doing in this recession to survive. Just a little bit of background. The agencies I work with are primarily in that sort of 10 to 100 range, some smaller, some larger, but they're primarily independent agencies. So without further ado, let's switch over and show you the dreaded PowerPoint, but I think it's the slides which are worth explaining what's actually going on and what we're talking about. So typically 12% of agencies will die in a year. So 100 agencies, 12% will be gone. Some will die gracefully, some will die painfully, but typically 12% will go. So that would look roughly like that. Now, this year is a different year. I reckon the death rate is going to be about 3 times a normal year, which would put it at about 30-35%. So now we see not just 12% dying, but we see literally a third of the room evaporating. The weak will die. Those who are vulnerable will die, but those who are strong are good. And then there's also the notion that some will be able to push themselves from the struggling into the surviving camp. And I think that is totally doable and totally possible for many agencies. Not all, but for many. I'm not under any illusions about how difficult it is for some agencies at the moment. So which are you? Are you thriving, surviving, struggling, or dying? Well, we've talked to our 160 odd agencies, and we've just asked them in their opinion where they are, whether they feel it's the best year yet, whether they're basically above break even and they've got some cash coming in, or whether they feel they're still 50-50 and struggling, or whether they're actually dying. The interesting thing, of course, is that the rising tide lifts all boats. So in the good days, pre-COVID, when we talked about how difficult it was getting customers and how difficult it was, charging £150, £170 an hour, everything seemed to be rosy. I'm afraid that's not the case now. These are the numbers we have. 15% are thriving, doing really well. 35% are surviving, so 50% above the line, and then 40% are struggling, finding it really tough. I suspect many of those are finding it really tough because they've never seen a recession before. They don't know what working for 3 years really hard is like. They think it was always like it used to be, our business has been like, if you've got a balloon and your business is, in terms of market share, as a circle on the balloon, as you blow the balloon, everything increases. But that's not the case now. The balloon is contracting. And then 10% are dying, and I suspect that number will increase as the recession digs in. It's normal for recessions for more businesses to go bust after the recession in the middle of it. And that makes sense because what's happened is that people have done everything they can. They've struggled really hard to keep everything together. They've maxed out the credit card, and then they can't do it anymore. So the differentiator between the above the line and beneath the line is really straightforward. I'm not telling you anything you haven't figured out already. The successful agencies are the ones with the deep pockets. And why do they have deep pockets? Because they've saved money. And why did they save money? Because they're profitable and they're financially prudent, because they were charging decent prices. The successful agencies also have a healthy pipeline. Why do they have a healthy pipeline? Because they're good at marketing. They don't do the famine and then push and then famine type thing. They are constantly marketing, and their marketing's really good. Their marketing's really good, so it's actually cheaper for them to acquire clients than for other people. Good marketing is relatively cheap because it is right the way through the business. And the other thing they have is they have contracted revenue, contracted recurring revenue, because they tend to be larger businesses. They tend to be have larger clients, and larger clients tend to have deeper pockets, and larger clients tend to work on longer term contracts. So there's a kind of benevolent cycle which kicks in above about 30 or 40 staff. And likewise, the agencies that have done well, they tend to have a decent market spread. If you've got a bad market spread, like all your eggs into one basket of hospitality, then or airlines, it's going to be really tough. But those people who've got a market spread meant that they could take the risk. And of course, some people had the perfect market spread when they, if they had bike shops and grocery stores and online gambling. Gosh, they were, that was the time to be there. But circular argument, the healthy agencies have been, on the whole, been healthy going into the recession, because they were prepared and they were ready for it and they knew what to do. Because it's only when the tide goes out that you discover who's been swimming naked, and that's what we've done. We've figured out who's been swimming naked, and that's been pain for everyone for every sense. So a quick look at the research. Bain. Point about this is that those who were pretty aggressive about marketing and selling ended up being the winners. They ended up performing considerably better than those coming out of the 7, 8, 9 recession by holding back and closing down. Likewise, research from McKinsey supports exactly the same thing. They call them the resilience. And the resilience did way better than the non-resilience as time went on, because at the time, and as a symptomatic of the type of businesses they were, they did cut some muscle, but they were always engaging and always trying to market as opposed to closing down, whereas these people at the bottom closed down. So this gives you kind of 4 options. This comes from Bain. If you consider your business as you went into the recession, that you had a strong strategic position, you had customer loyalty, you had good market share, or weak, and you either had strong financial strength, in other words, relative to your peers, or weak, then you can see there are 4 boxes you could be in. If you're in that bottom left-hand box, then it's really go big or go home. It's like bet the farm or go home now. Go home now rather than death by 1,000 cuts. But you've got to be really aggressive, make some tough calls. It's going to be a gamble to know whether you survive. And that's a really vulnerable place to be. Second place is this top left-hand corner, which is you've got the strategic position, people know and love you, you've got the customer loyalty, but you've not got the deep pockets. And in that case, it's urgent cost transformation that must have taken place by now. And that will enable you to scale back on the non-essentials and get the processes and systems sorted out so you can focus on those core strengths. It sounds a bit business school talky, but I think it's just nice that the 2x2 box explains where we may be. Third box is this bottom right-hand one, where you've got the money but weak strategic position. You've got to invest in in sorting out that strategic position. You've got to redefine the business. You've got to invest to grow. Again, cost transformation. And then finally, the top box, which is where those cool players are, that all the ones who did really well, is deep pockets and people love you. You just invest to enhance the product and proactive acquisition. That's the take. So those are the 4 kind of options depending on how much money you've got and how your strategic position sits. So what should you have done, which is a bit like hashtag starting with the end in mind, was the theme that runs through it. What should you have done? 1, restructure your costs without cutting the muscle. That's the clue. Restructure the cost without cutting the muscle. Never waste a good recession. Okay, so make sure that you've got a more powerful, stronger, more value-adding team. Use this opportunity to clean out anyone that you maybe don't want to be there. Second, put the financial house in order. That's about pricing, that's about costing, that's stress testing the P&L, the balance sheet. Go from quarterly to monthly to weekly cash flow forecast and P&L to make sure you're totally on top of the costs, because it's not just you, it's your business environment which is vulnerable now. So you need to be collecting money, you need to know exactly who's able to pay you and when they're going to pay you. Play offensively by reinvesting selectively for commercial growth. So be careful where you put your money, but where you do put your money, make sure that it's about growth and it's relevant. It's all about relevance. It's not about gambling wildly. It's about relevance. And for those of you who can, with the deep pockets, pursue a proactive M&A. It's the M&A pipeline which becomes the interesting way of looking at the future of the agency. And that's what we kind of need to think about. In effect, I think is about switching the button to agency warrior mode. And by warrior, I simply mean being clear, being strong, not being we're going to be resilient, we're on a marathon, it's going to take time. It's about being strong and clear and committed and enthusiastic and passionate and bold, as opposed to just waiting to see what will happen. The pandemic has been like an asteroid strike, but there are reasons to be cheerful. The Earth will survive, but some dinosaurs, simple as that. So let's just keep going then. Some more stats about the way forward. So one, global ad spending is expected to be 10% lower in 19 than it was in 19. That's from Group M, so that's good to hear. Ad spending may fall by less this year than the 11% that it fell in the financial crisis of 2019. That's Group M again. They're starting to wish they hadn't said that. But the point is, it's not going to. Ad spending isn't going to drop 1,000%. Q2 was the time when that would have happened. So let's look at what happened to ad spending in Q2. So this is from the P&L of Google. The quarter ended June 2030. Google search and ad spending went down roughly 10% year on year. So it dipped, but it wasn't dreadful. Meanwhile, in that same quarter, if I look at our 150 odd agencies, on average, their belief is that their PPC ad spending went down 28%. So someone's doing well to flip that average, but we just need to think about the fact that it's 10% on average. So as the dust settles, a reshaping advertising world is emerging. Offline ad sellers have long been in decline. The creative agencies is a middleman business and it's being pinched from both sides. And the argument is it's facing gradual extinction. So just let's look at some of the figures. This is from Moffett Nathanson. Most advertising that was pulled in 2001 and 9 never came back, but this time they believe that the advertising will return as early as next year. Look at the uplift they've got there. This is going up. Because, and I think this is the important thing, the difference is that digital advertising, I'm speaking out, primarily to the digital advertisers and those who have a focus on digital advertising, it's the new rent. It's what you pay to be trading, and that recognition is coming in. Not only that digital transformation is required, but also that digital advertising is the new rent, and that's the point that our clients need to and are starting to really get. So there is also this decline of offline. We can see that companies pulled radio and print in the past downturns because they realized they didn't need them. And the same may be true of TV advertising. Just look at how those predictions are going in the United States. And again, digital ad spending has become resilient. It's become resilient because it is far more aligned with the way that people spend their time. So we can see that in 2010, there was a kind of disparity between how people spent their time and the advertising spending. Well, now, because it's 2018, you can see that the time spent on advertising spend is almost matching. So there's this close alignment means that digital advertising becomes more powerful than ever. TV advertising will start to crack. Everyone's always thought it's going to crack. Is this the year? Is this the year? But Google and Facebook are on track to increase their share of the worldwide digital ad business to 70%, and they have loads of capacity to display more ads. So again, we can see the graphs pointing out there's tons of opportunity for digital advertising revenue share to increase worldwide. So this takes us to a back to basics piece for you. What should you be doing in your agency? 3 R's. This is an opportunity to redesign, to refresh and reposition your agency. Okay, redesign, refresh and reposition your agency. Right now is the time that you should have really thought through, what is it that your client really wants? What is it that they want right now? What position should we take relative to other people around us? As we look at what our clients are going through, what is it that they need from us? Do they still need a narrow focus, or is it the case that they're looking for more support and assistance and digital transformation? My argument would be to try and go up the food chain, try and do more digital transformation, try and do more strategic work or more strategic marketing work. That's where they want the help. More importantly, it's not commoditized, because stuff like PPC work can be shipped out to Bangalore, and you want to be adding value. You want to be where the value is added. So you need to think really carefully about where you can add the most value to your clients. Refresh your agency and redesign your agency around engaging your clients and solving a specific problem. And I talk about a specific problem because I think we need to be really clear about the problem that we're solving, because too often we don't think about the problem. We're a marketing agency. Think about what is the problem. What problem do you solve for whom, and how do you help them solve it? And give me some numbers and data. So, 3 R's. I say do not compete on price. Really what I want to say is put your prices up. The bold agencies, the agencies at the top, are putting their prices up because they can demonstrate they're delivering awesome value for money. Try and stay away from a price war. A price war is not where you want to be. So try not to compete on price. Think about this warrior mentality about being assertive rather than aggressive. Being clear about what you want, clear about what you can deliver, clear about how you're going to make it. Don't wait for stuff to come to you. Don't be passive. Don't think we're going to survive the long game. But really push, because other people won't be pushing as hard as you. And ask yourself, why should people bother to buy from you? Yeah, why should people bother to buy from you is the question. Hashtag customer is king. Why should people bother to buy from when they can buy from the competition, when the competition is faster, smarter, brighter, friendlier, ruder? But why should they buy from you? You need to be really clear about what your proposition is. Not just a value proposition, but a quantifiable value proposition. And even more on top of that, what makes you different from the rest? Because everyone says they're award-winning, and look at our numbers. It's the units. It's how you make people feel. And that's why you need to engage with people to actually help them run better businesses. So, what does this mean? Very quickly, in terms of strategy, it's going up the food chain. Think about 12-week business plans, short and tight, that warrior startup mentality, and think about how you can engage your staff and your clients and the industry and the marketplace. In terms of finance, it's about being ruthless. Hold that price point. For some of you, it's about acquisitions and with the cheap cash, which is around at the moment. And for many of us, it's about cash first, profit second. Remember, it's the businesses that focusing on cash, focus on satisfying the customer, making the sale, and the profit tends to come afterwards. But that needs to be linked with the ruthless cost control. In terms of marketing, you must compete on value-add expertise and strategy going up the food chain. Try not to compete in price. Everyone is getting a lot more success from cross-sell and upsell than they are with business development. Biz dev seems to be much tougher at the moment because people aren't in the market so much. They're more likely to buy from a supplier they like at the moment. However, there is incredibly cheap cost of customer acquisition at the moment when it works, because we're not running events, we're not running shows, we're not going to conferences, we're not flying, we're doing everything online. So think about how you can pinpoint your target customer with a proposition that they find so seductive and sexy that they actually want to work with you. About engagement. It's about engagement. It's about engagement. It's about how you make people feel. In terms of operations, ruthless KPIs and clarity, and really get those systems and processes sorted out. And underpinning all of this, people and culture, which makes everything happen. Again, a relentless focus on going back to your people, making sure that the values that your agency believes in are rolled out and delivered on. It's about, I'm going to use the word again, engagement, about going back to your values and your purpose and making sure everyone understands what the job in hand is. So it's back to basics. 3 R's, the opportunity to redesign, refresh and repurpose your agency. I will repeat this again, it's worth repeating. Do not compete on price. Yeah. What you need to do is compete on being the awesome value for money, on awesome value add. Think this idea of the warrior mentality and keep thinking hashtag customer is king. You know, why should people bother to buy from you? Why should people bother to buy when they can buy from the competition? So my concluding slide is this. The pandemic has been like an asteroid strike, but there are reasons to be cheerful. The Earth will survive, but some dinosaurs will die. Agencies are like cockroaches and not like dinosaurs. We scurry around, we figure out the new world. The opportunity for all of us is to figure out the new world. It is a different world. The old rules don't apply, and it's about figuring out how we can make that happen. And I think we've seen from the agencies we work with that those that kind of apply the common sense rules are the ones who actually do okay. They do better than they've done before. So on that note, I'm going to wish you every luck. I don't for a minute say that it's easy out there, but I think if we look at how agencies have behaved in the past in recessions, we look at how the successful behave now, and if we apply good common sense, then we'll make it. Thank you very much for listening. My name is Robert Crave, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you.